Crushing the meta.
Big welcome to our channel. We are Team Crushing the Meta, and today we're here with JD and D-Boy, and I'm gonna do the deck profile on Mohammed's deck, who got first place in the Bushiroad Championship Series in Germany. And we didn't have the chance there to get his deck profile, but we did get his deck list, and I talked to him for a very long time, and I had the chance to understand his playstyle, and I saw some of his matches. We also have the top 4 match on our channel, so you could always go and watch that as well to see his deck profile. But yeah, so he played Susanoo Oracle, and it was a very interesting build. If I could say so myself, and I think JD would agree with me on that, is we definitely think that he deserves to be the clan leader of Oracle Think Tank.
Definitely.
Because of his playstyle and because he understands the clan very well. So yeah, we'll just go through the deck to show you guys the deck list, and after that I will talk a little bit about his deck. And of course you can contact him on Facebook and talk to him. He would definitely take the time to explain some things for you guys, so you could always, don't be shy, you could always just talk to him, and he's a very nice guy to talk to.
He also wants to tell about his deck, his clan, because he knows how Susanoo is the less hyped clan, sub-clan next to Battle Sisters.
Yeah, the thing is, the difference between Battle Sisters and Susanoo, I think, is that people are playing Battle Sisters before the Link Joker format, and when the Link Joker format will be there, people will play less Battle Sisters. But Susanoo players play the clan because they like it, and they played it before Stillwater and before set 12. So even with the Link Joker format, they would think of ways to play around lock and being locked and adding cards and taking some cards out. And in this deck list that you will see today is not based on the Link Joker format, so this is way before. So yeah, we'll talk about just his deck list, and after that explain some of the cards. So for the grade 3s, of course, playing 4 copies of the new Susanoo. I will not be pronouncing the names. Definitely not. It's not my clan, I'm just doing the deck profile. So 4 of the newer Susanoo and 2 Jessicas. So playing the 6 grade 3s. For the grade 2 lineup, of course, Taekman. He runs him at 4. We'll talk about that later, what he does and how he works. And then playing 4. Playing 4 copies of this card is because you run the 6 stands, of course. Even by running the 8 stands, this will be very effective. The same with her. You could always attack with her first, get a stand trigger, stand her, and attack again. But I would say that's a waste because you mostly want to put the crit on her. But yeah. So you play the 12 grade 2s. For the grade 1s, 3 Stridefolders. Well, because of course you play only 6 grade 3s, and sometimes you want to search up the right grade 3. From his playstyle, he definitely didn't have any problem with riding into her. I think JD would agree with me on that, as riding into her is really not bad. But yeah, it's nice to have the right Susanoo, and because you play only 6 grade 3s, you do need this right.
With these 2 grade 3s, you have your ideal right, because that's always new Susanoo, but you don't brick that hard when you have to go into her. You just don't brick as hard as other decks brick.
No, because you don't really need his skill to be able. It's really nice to get the bonus to draw extra card and to be able to check the top cards, but it's not really necessary. It's not like if you don't have him on your Vanguard, the deck would not work or would not function. Then of course play 4 copy of Snake Boy. It's a really good card. Being able to stride if you have Oracle GB1 is nice, and it makes him a good target for your opponent to retire. But also at the same time, you could just put him there in the early game, just draw an extra card. Remember that when you play this card in Battle Sisters, is you do need to have an Oracle Vanguard to get this skill to draw. But in this deck, I think all of your cards are Oracle, maybe. He's not, so if you ride into him, don't call this card because you won't get his skill off. So just keep that in mind.
It's a misplay I really see a lot of times on YouTube.
The people just get this card on the field, Stall Blast one and draw a card, and their finger is not even Oracle. And this is another problem for the older Susanoo. It's that Bishra, they're making a lot of decks, like Blade Master, Susanoo, and even Charlotte, that the old cards doesn't have the keyword, and because of that, a lot of the new units doesn't work with the old cards. It's like you do need to replace your older grade 3 with a new grade 3 to be able to work it out. So yeah, 4, I would not say that you would run less. Maybe in the Link Joker format, but that's different. And 4 copies of her. Another card that doesn't really rely on GB1 to be really good. Put her on the field and you could always get the extra draw out of her. Being the Oracle ability is also not the GB1. And of course the GB1 skill is the same as Nana Say. You could just get the extra power. But remember, she doesn't get the power herself. She gives the power to another unit in the same column, which has the Oracle ability. Another thing that you have to think about.
And that makes her really good while playing stand triggers.
Yeah. Then he plays 4 copies of this Perfect Guard. The reason is, of course, for the mirror match. You do really need it, and it's really nice to be able to get it into your hand. The trigger lineup, playing 6 crit. He makes a lot of nice columns with this card, and by having him there and making the 15 column on his grade 2 turn is good enough. And sometimes if you want to go to the 16k column, you put this card into your soul, and then you put a Snake Boy behind your grade 3 and make the 16k column, or behind your grade 2s, and be able to hit your opponent. So that's I think the most thing that I saw when I saw him play Mohammed, is that he almost always makes the perfect columns in the perfect timing. Like making the 14 columns in the early game, the 15 columns if he knows that he's playing against a deck that runs the 10Ks. And when he's tried, he makes the 16, the 17K columns. It's really, really nice. And those kind of little things I do appreciate a lot about players. Because me, myself, I always like to get every small, let's say, detail out of my plays. So I could say I would make the perfect column. I would never make a 15k column to attack into like his 11k. I would just make then I would just make the 16 or 17 or 18k column, which 18k column is also something that I think, well, why do I make this column? But yeah, that's really nice about his playstyle, is he thinks about his plays and he knows his deck way too well. To like, sometimes he has this card on the field and he would say like, why would I put this into my soul? I know that I've already seen almost all of my boosters, so the chance getting the right grade 1 into my hand is so low that leaving this card on the field is the same. Or maybe I need the soul, but I don't. Well, it's like that, and it's really nice to see a player of such caliber.
Seeing him play this way in Germany really opened my eyes for my own Susanoo deck to see what is more to do with this way of build and this way of thinking.
Yeah. Playing, of course, this 6 stands is something that makes Stillwater very effective and make the early game very good. But at the same time, if you don't know what this card does, and if you're an Oracle Think Tank player, then I will advise you to search it up and read it. Especially, it's not GB1, which makes this card very, very, very good. Putting him in the early game and put him into your soul, he gives the soul a plus. He gives you, as JD said, a selective draw, and he does put pressure on the field and leaves the field. So, yeah. And the other stand trigger, he rarely uses his skill. is just because it has Oracle, so you can put it into your hand and you can attack into it, and you can select it with your card skills. Playing the original Magus is because sometimes it does help out to make perfect column, and it goes back to your deck, which means that you would not deck out, and you have a heal in your deck. Also in mirror match, the heal does nothing, so against Stillwater, so you just put her back into your deck. And she leaves an open Vanguard circle, so that's good. For the starter, I think that there is not really any other starter that you would like to play in this deck. He does help out to get Oracle if you don't have it, and if you have Oracle, you will be able to countercharge. I think that the countercharge one is a bit, could have been a countercharge too, but the thing is that this card also goes into the soul, so it's actually a soul charge and a countercharge.
There is also the old starter still that lets you check top 2, but with the amount of retire and lock in the meta, you really don't want to play that one anymore.
I've seen Mohammed play like 2 times or 3 times, and he just put him into the soul to draw the extra card, and from there he could just put the Snake Boy or the other great, or even a Psychic Bird on the field and still make the right columns. Next turn, Psychic Bird into the soul, draw an extra card. So yeah, it's really nice to have him because he's not GB1 restricted, as JD said. And the Counterblast, you can afford that even by playing the Tankmans. For the Stride deck, it's really nice to have the hit pressure, but also sometimes good to give the extra power. The same with her. She could also work as having or doing the hit pressure in the early game. But mostly, I think all of these are just choices that you could have, and this is just the card that you want to go into and finish the opponent off. But Mohammed himself doesn't agree with me on that. He said, well, having this card is just enough horror for your opponent to think about her, to discard all of their heal triggers in the early game, just guard with them as 10Ks, and when you know that your opponent is like out of G guards and stuff, then you do not really need to go into her anymore. And then you have another choices which are sometimes even better, which is like him having the extra crit is always nice. Her to be able to put cards on the top of your deck and still make your opponent suffer because they don't know what you put on the top of your deck. Making the right columns and giving the hit pressure, so you don't really have to go into her anymore if you play the deck right and if you pressure your opponent a lot, which in his playstyle he makes like always in his grade 2 game the 2 columns, so he attacks at least 3 times without getting a stand trigger. That would mean that most of their opponents, if they have a heal trigger in their hand, they will discard that as a 10k shield, and that would mean that they would know that you will go into Stillwater. And yeah, she is a good finisher, don't get me wrong, but she is not your only choice. Talking about finishers, of course, we have the GB8. Amaterasu herself being able to finish the game off, of course, so good. Especially if you play the original heal triggers, then this card is even better because you recycle them to your deck and she would be able to finish the game off. Also, the thing about Stillwater is if you have used her skill, the first one and the second one, then you have already gotten into the 3 GBs, including herself, and you strike before that, so you have GB5 and like you G-guard once or twice and you're on GB8. Easy. But it's not really a GB8 that is a go-to in Oracle Tank. You don't have to.
No.
For the G Guardians, I think this is the same as JD's deck.
Yeah, correct.
So playing 2 Amaterasus, one of the Unflip PG, one of the Battle Sister, and one of the Esmiel. When I had the question about why not running 2 of her, it's like it's nice to have the option to have her, and it's also good that sometimes you want to go to the GB8, so it's nice to unflip, and sometimes it's also good to just check the top card. But mostly, this is your favorite G guard. I mean, she does a lot, And having the Desmiel in here is good against a lot of matchups, so we don't really have to explain how good this card is, especially protecting your non-essays. But yeah.
Yeah, we got amazing grade 2s in the last set, so Desmiel became more relevant again.
Yep. But this is actually the card that you want to go into.
Yep.
Playing her at 2 is definitely a must. Playing her as 3 is not needed. But yeah, just have her in here, get the extra 10k, checking the top card, and give you the soul charge, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, soul charges. And keep in mind, you have to soul charge.
Yep. We have seen that before, and we have seen that also in the top 4 match of the France regionals. That's you almost didn't soul charge, and the judge was like, "Or you have to soul charge." So read the cards correctly and don't just play them before reading them. So yeah, that's actually it about the deck. I think playing the 6 grade 3s is something that most people think, well, that's really low. But Mohammed told me before that he even played just 4. He tried 5, and he liked playing 6 because this deck is not even GB1 restricted. It makes right columns. And she also has the Oracle keyword, so it's better than a Stridefaller in most cases. And it's also, as I said before, it's not bad to ride into her. So 6 grade 3s, I think it works perfect in this format. I think most people would like to grade lock you, and then in this deck, because you play 12 grade 2s, you could grade lock as well. Do I need to explain this card? I don't think so. Just having the stand triggers, you don't really have a lot of cards that use counterblasters, so you could draw a lot, thin out your deck, and
he keeps getting power.
Yep.
That's important about him.
Another card that I don't have to explain, or maybe I do have to explain because this card is really so good. The hit pressure in the early game is perfect. The Oracle ability is not on play, so it's also perfect. This card should have been at least a double rare, not a common, and definitely not a rare. Then Tankman. I think this is the card that we have to talk about. We have talked about this a lot, and it really came out to it depend on your playstyle. The good thing about Tankman is you put him out there, you draw 2, cut +1, draw 2, discard an Oracle, or discard 2. But most of the time you discard an Oracle because you have a lot of Oracle cards in your deck. Bad thing about him is he himself doesn't have Oracle, so you can't discard himself. Another bad thing about him is if you get him in the late game, he does nothing. You can just put him out there, counterblast 1, draw 2 cards, and then discard 1, and then let him leave the field and call you none and say, well, okay, yeah, perfect, that worked, but you have already lost 2 cards from your deck because in this deck you can't afford to do that because you will deck out. So he is only good in the early game. Also, he's perfect in the early game. Why? His skill only works on the rear guard, yeah, okay, but call him, counterblast 1, draw 2, discard 1. The thing about him is that your opponent would leave him on the field. They will not attack into him first time. They would think, well, it's a 7k, it does nothing. It does the perfect columns. It does the it does the 12k column with your Snake Boy. It does the 11k column with your Psychic Bird. It does the 14 column with any booster you put behind him because all of your boosters are 7k. So, perfect. After that, if they don't attack into him, you could always intercept for the extra 5k. He leaves the field. So, it's a very good card, but it definitely depends on your knowledge of the deck, of the clan, and of your playstyle. I mean, JD did try this card out.
Yeah, correct.
He thought before he was, well, it's a very good card, but because of his playstyle, he had to discard a lot of his good grade 2s.
And that made me really scared of
Yep.
What am I doing now? I'm sacrificing my good cards for this one, and also in the late game, because in my play style I discard a lot of the good grade 3s or grade 2s. I only had him to attack with, so
Yeah.
that made me really scary. But if I would run him still, then I would also be feeling quite good with running 6 grade 3s, because right now I don't do that, so I really want those 7 grade 3s. Because he generates a lot of speed through your deck. He really filters the deck really fast.
That's the thing about him, is he thins your deck out, but he also searches you sometimes the right cards. If you play less grade 3s, then you need him, because he could just go through your deck to get your PGs against like the Battle Sister format. But I think mostly this card is in here because of the Battle Sister matchup. Just a lot of matchups that you have right now, or the format before this, before Link Joker, is that your opponent would just leave him on the field or attack into him, and you will be like, alright, why not? And because of Mohammed's playstyle, which he attack into your opponent's Vanguard, he will go just face, and then the opponent will be like on 4 damage, and Stillwater will come and finish the game, or even Como Susanoo. But I think in the Link Joker format that this card would not see a lot of plays, because just having him on the field in the early game, you just really need to intercept with him as fast as you can, and then after that he will be, as always, a dead card in your deck. I mean, you don't even want to discard him to stride with, and doesn't even have the Oracle ability to target him with anything. So that's actually it. I think that there is nothing else that we could talk about. I mean, you could talk about Jessica, but I think just reading the card itself explains a lot. Being 11k with the Psychic Bird and with anything behind him, he could still make the 15k column, and after that with Snake Boy make the 16k column. So that's good about Jessica, and having the hit pressure, of course, which is nice to have. Explain this, we explained that. I think the best starter that Oracle Think Tank, especially Susanoo, could play right now.
Definitely.
If you think that there is another starter that you would play, well, tell us and we'll think about it. Explain this. I think we explained
the whole deck.
Yeah. I don't know about if this card would change in the new format, but I don't think so. I think just even playing against Link Joker,
I could see the counter charge PGs running because of Great Dora, but that depends on how active that deck will become.
Yeah, but I don't think
that's
so.
Really far away still.
Yeah. But yeah, that's actually it for the deck profile. One more tip that you want to give you guys is that, as we said before in JD's deck profile, is that she is a good finisher, but remember, she is not your only choice. And know how to use her, and just be really sure that you always have an extra copy of her face down in your G-Zone to go into. So let's say you have Stride first, and you have used like Susanoo or the hit pressure, or both of them are hit pressure, but you've used her or Susanoo for the hit pressure, so you have already GB2 or GB3, and now you go into Stillwater, but you have like 5 cards in your hand. You go into Stillwater, use your Stride skill, you get the 6th card. From there, do you really have to use her skill, Counter Blast, Soul Blast, to get the extra 2 cards? Well, maybe if you want to go into GB3, you do that, but otherwise, don't. You don't have to. Or if you play against something like Bladewing, which you do really need all the shield that you can get, okay, use her skill. But using her skill once to draw means you only have 2 left, and that would mean that the next time you go into her, you would think about leaving 1 copy of her face down in the G-Zone. So that would mean go into her once, twice, and from there you have the option to go into her 1 more time. If the second time you stride into her, needs to flip her face up, then this should be your final turn. If it's not, don't go into her, go into Como Susanoo or something else, or Wakahorumi.
Wakarume.
Yeah, that card. I still can't pronounce the name. But yeah, you can go into her as well. So go into him or her. I think those are the best choices that you could go into. And try from there to push up for more PGs from your opponent. Or she does the same with her attack. But yeah, that could work. And if you know that your opponent has some heal triggers in their hand, okay, I understand going into her one more time. But if not, then definitely don't go into her. Don't waste her skill one more time. Just go into them and still have 2 still waters left in your G-zone. And that's it. If you manage your still waters, if you manage your oracles, and manage your hand, then you could play this deck perfectly. Also the columns that you make. But yeah, that's it for the deck profile. I will put Mohammed's name and tag him on Facebook, so you could always contact him and talk to him. I think they also have their private Oracle Think Tank group.
Yeah, we have an Oracle Think Tank Corporation group on Facebook. Just look them up. Maybe we can put a link down below to that Facebook page.
Yeah.
And if you're really thinking about joining Oracle Think Tank as a main clan or a second clan, just join us and we can help you.
Yes, of course. This is definitely not a deck list that it's easy to play. Mohammed told me a lot about it, is that it's not a deck that you make and play and think, well, I win because it took first place. It's really hard to manage, especially by playing the Tankman engine. It does make it even harder to manage your counterblast and manage your draws. And keep in mind what you have left in your deck, about like the stands, the crits, but also the grade 1 and the grade 2s. So if you want to make this deck or remake this deck and play it yourself, give it time. Don't give up easy. Play it multiple times. Try not to play against Link Joker, not just right away, because that's, I think, the hardest matchup.
Yeah.
Also, Luard could be hard because they recycle their PGs. But play like against Tochikaze, even Blade Master, Blade Wing, Charlotte. Play against normal decks or most decks, and try to understand how the deck work. And if it could help to see the matches of Mohammed himself play in the top 4, you could also go to our channel. We'll put a link down below for you guys to go and watch that, because that does help out a lot. I mean, even JD, when he saw the video, he learned a lot about...
yeah, I learned a lot, and that's still why you see the difference between Mohammed's build and my build, because in my playstyle, some ways, some turns just don't really work for me. I don't feel comfortable with it, because I still need to learn a lot, because Mohammed I saw from his build I can learn a lot more. And just try to find a build that works for you. And you can always try my build, Mohammed's build, try something for yourself, what you think will work. And again, trial and error. It's really trial and error.
Yeah, it's really nice that you have some basics. Like, of course, you have her as a 4-off, you have him as a 4-off. You have the basics, but from there you take it yourself and you build it the way that you like to play the deck, and the build that suits your playstyle. And if the whole clan doesn't suit you, then don't play it. It's not like I like Stillwater, it's a good finisher, I'll play the clan. Just don't. So yeah, that's it for us, guys. Tell us what you think about these kind of videos. Do you want to see this in another way? Like, do you want to put Mohammed on the screen and talk to him and tell you guys what he think about it? Or we thought it's really nice for you guys to contact him yourself, and he could tells you way better than we how his decks work.
Yeah.
I mean, we have some thoughts about him, and we have, of course, thoughts about JD because he plays the deck as well. But it's different to hear it from the guy himself who got first place and going towards. So yeah, thanks for watching again, and till next time.
Till next time.